I'm Kristin, the founder of the Real Food blog, Live Simply, certified nutrition coach, and faster way to fat loss coach. I'm excited to bring you this follow-up video. I sit down with my first coach on faster way to fat loss, Sandy Gravett, and together we discuss strategies for sustainable fat loss, building muscle, body recomposition, so completely changing the way your body looks, no matter your age. Now, since sharing this video, I have become a faster way to fat loss coach myself. A good friend sat down with me and said, Kristin, you're already coaching people within your DMs on Instagram and in email. People are coming to you. Hundreds of people come to you and to ask you for macro advice and to talk about their calorie deficit and losing fat and to get advice. And you're helping people out there. Why don't you just open this up to other people to be able to join you in a coaching role? And you know what? That's what I did. So I am excited to offer you the opportunity to come join me as your coach. I would love to be able to help you, to hold your hand in this process, to be able to show you what it looks like to lose fat in a sustainable way, just like I did, to maintain that and to build muscle and to completely change your body composition. Instead of constantly trying to lose and then gain back those same 10 pounds, I'd love to show you the strategies that work so that you can lose the fat, to maintain that success, and to be able to enjoy your life without restriction and to fall in love with the process. So I'm going to put my link below. I'd love for you to come join me, and I'd love to help you as your coach. Now sit back and listen to the interview.
I have been writing a real food, healthy, cooking, healthy living blog for, oh my gosh, a long time, 12 years, 13 years, right? So I had all of like the healthy eating down. I wasn't eating like a ton of crappy foods or processed foods. And yet it was the same thing, like mid 30s, all of a sudden it hit. It was kind of a mix, I think, of mid 30s and COVID all at the same time. But I suddenly couldn't figure out, like, why am I eating all this healthy, real food? And yet my face, like I could see, I've shared this before, but we recorded a video series back during COVID times. And I remember when the videographer sent me the videos to preview, I looked at myself and I was like, who is this person? Like my face was so puffy and I would see photos of myself. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I was gaining a rapid amount of weight very quickly around my midsection, like things. And like I tell people, I was always active. I was kickboxing during this time. I was doing Pure Bar. I was paying a fortune to do Pure Bar, which is very expensive every month. Like I was not sitting on the couch, right? I was eating well, but I was so frustrated with fat loss and I couldn't figure it out. And that's when I finally joined Faster Way, because I was like, okay, like everything points to the same things as far as getting enough protein, lifting weights, moving your body, and making sure your nutrition calories are aligned with your goal. But I don't know how to do this. This is like such a big abstract ideas. And so Faster Way came in, packaged it all up, and then having a good coach is what makes or breaks the experience. And that has been so powerful and empowering, and everything that's come with it, from body composition changes to food freedom to not feeling confused anymore. So I think so many women are confused and so many women are after fat loss, kind of like why I joined in the beginning. Can you share what is the secret to fat loss? Like, how does someone lose the weight? And also there's a lot of talk, especially like with Faster Way, and the difference between, say, fat loss versus weight loss.
The simplest, nittiest, grittiest way to lose fat is being in a calorie deficit. And a lot of women think calorie deficit and they think 1,200 calories. And that's where people, especially women, can get into a mindset of watching what their calories and then doing good at that 1,200 calories for like 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And then the weekend comes and it's quickly, they're like, oh, I've done good all week. I really want this cookie. But that cookie turns into like 2 cookies, turns into chips, and turns into all of these things where they can quickly get themselves out of that calorie deficit that they just put themselves in and worked in all week. Then they get on the scale and they're like, oh crap, I just gained 2 pounds from eating that food. You didn't gain 2 pounds. It's impossible to gain 2 pounds from eating a few cookies. You'd have to eat 3,500 calories plus your maintenance calories to gain 1 pound. So a lot of that attributes to water, to salt, to the timing that you ate that. Was that right before you went to bed and didn't move? So much comes down to actually gaining weight. And 9 times out of 10, when a woman jumps on the scale the day after she ate bad, she thinks that she gained 2 pounds. In actuality, she just is holding a little bit of water from what she ate. So calorie deficit and a slight calorie deficit is the easiest way and the only thing that you really need to do to lose fat and be able to stick to that calorie deficit long term. So longer than 5 days, where you're not starting over on Monday. You want to be able to sustain that for at least 6, 7, 10, 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is. It just really depends on where your body is and how much you have to lose, how long you need to be in that calorie deficit. And that's going back to kind of that weight loss. You can lose weight without losing fat, and you can lose fat without losing weight. And the difference is, if you just slash your calories and you lose weight on the scale drops. Most of the time, what you're actually losing is water and muscle. And when you lose muscle, you are setting yourself up for longer repercussions, for making it harder to sustain that weight that you did lose, to make it harder on yourself to actually lose fat and to keep it off. So really what you want to focus on is the way your clothes are fitting, the inches that you are losing, the way you feel in your clothes. Maybe it's even looking at pictures, and then overall being able to lose fat, and how you're going to do that. And you don't have to lose a single pound. So many times I will have a client who was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't successful because I didn't lose anything. Or, oh my gosh, this didn't work because I gained a pound. And then you put pictures of them side by side, and it's drastic, the pictures that they are showing you. And so you just have to really, it's a mind shift change, but really just focusing on fat loss and not the number on the scale. You can weigh yourself every single day, and it could literally do this every single day. And that is our body. That is normal. Like I said, it goes down to water, salt, carbs, muscle. So much goes into how much your body is weighing every single day.
And people don't realize that any diet out there really works because they put people in a calorie deficit. And a lot of them are very extreme. Like if you look at things like Optavia, I know family and friends who have done that, and it's like 800 calories a day. That's what I eat for breakfast when I wake up. I mean, it is really extreme. So it's like, no wonder it works. But the thing is like, marketing is such a great thing that these diet programs never tell you that it's a calorie deficit is why they're going to lose weight. Instead, they tell you like they have some special formula or something special. But the truth is, the reason why anybody loses weight is because they're eating less calories than their body needs, that calorie deficit. I did not realize that. I could not figure out why I was gaining weight. And the fact of the matter was, it wasn't some crazy, like my body was against me and my hormones were against me, or all these like things that I thought I was a victim of. It was truly because I had never tracked food a day in my life. I had no idea what I was consuming. And even though I was eating healthy food, I was eating a ton of calories every day, way more than my body over the long term needed in order to maintain or to lose fat. And so being in a calorie surplus, eating more calories than my body needed, over years that took a toll, and I gained weight and gained fat. And it was like, but I had no idea until I came to you, until I joined Faster Way. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like this is the science. Like this isn't rocket science. This isn't some crazy thing. And if anything, it took that victim mentality away from me, and it helped me be
Empowered
incredibly
you.
empowered, because now I'm like, oh, okay. Like, if I gain a little in the future, I know how to lose it. Like, it's not, or, maybe I purposely gain like in a surplus because you want to put on more muscle. And we'll talk all about that later. But it's very empowering to know how fat loss works, how weight gain works. I mean, it's not like this mystery. And so it's an empowering, I think, lesson for anyone to learn going forward, especially in the society we live in today, where we're like so bombarded with food and everything else. So speaking of that, this strategy of like a calorie deficit in order to, lose fat, and like you said, it was a slight calorie deficit. You're not talking about anything extreme, like 800 calories a day, which is going to leave your metabolism in a wreck and starving, and long term, it's not going to be healthy.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you think, does this strategy work for any age, right? Because I think in this day and age, there's so many people on Instagram preaching to people like, oh, well, if you're a 60-year-old woman, then you need all of these supplements and all of this stuff, right? Or if you're like a 20-year-old, this is what's going to work. Like we have this idea that because maybe we're a certain age, that this idea of a calorie deficit for fat loss is not going to work for us, that we're victims, and that there's so much things out of our control out there that, we're never going to be successful with losing weight because of age or whatever it is.
It literally will work for everybody. I mean, there is not one human on this earth that a calorie deficit will not work for. As you age, what that looks like might be different, because it might come down to your activity level. A lot of times when you get older, and I think this happens, and that's why women, 40, 45, 50, 60, they think that they are gaining weight because of their age. And a lot of times it just comes down to you are less active as you get older. You don't have kids in sports. You're not running, playing in the yard as much. I mean, just so many things come. Maybe you're not walking animals, your animals passed away, whatever it is like your activity tends to decrease the older you get, which makes gaining weight and eating in a calorie surplus a lot easier, because you're just not active enough. So two things are going to play a huge role in fat loss and weight loss or losing, and that is your activity level and your nutrition. And I always tell people, look at your activity before you start taking food away, because simply adding in 10,000 steps a day could be the difference between burning 300 to 400 extra calories than eating more food and gaining weight. So if you want to lose weight, want to lose fat, look at how much you're moving. Make it a goal. If you're walking 4,000 steps, you need to be aiming for 7,000 steps. When you hit 7,000 steps, you need to crank it up a notch and probably aim for 10,000. Anywhere between 10 and 12,000 steps a day is a very good activity level to easily take you out of a calorie surplus without ever even reducing your calories, only because you just made yourself more active.
Yeah. And I found like I was having a hard time recently getting my steps in. So, you know, people are like, well, this sounds like a lot of work. It's like, you know, if you want change bad enough, you will figure out how to make it work. Like, sorry, you're gonna have to probably track your food for a little while to bring awareness to what you're eating. Because if not,
You literally can't manage what you are. You can't manage what you don't know. And like, if people get so bent out of shape when you talk about tracking food, but let me tell you, your body's tracking the food whether you are, and your mind is actually tracking it whether you're writing it down or calculating it, because you're looking at a piece of a sandwich and you're like, I can't eat that. That's too many calories. You'll go to a restaurant and you'll look at something on the menu and you're like, I can't have that. That's too many calories. So your mind is tracking the calories, but you don't actually know how those calories would work in your body if you don't track what you don't know.
And it
So
gives you so much data. That's what I found. Like it's incredible. I know where my body maintains, where it doesn't lose, it doesn't gain. Sit around 2,300 calories currently. Maybe that will change in the future, right? But currently, that's really empowering to know, right? There are days when I don't really track these days, and I feel confident in what I'm eating because I pretty much eat the same things anyway. But yeah, even with steps, like I was finding I was having a hard time getting steps in. So I was like, you know what? I need to be proactive. I need to stop playing the victim here, and I need to figure out this is a priority for me, how I can make this work. And so I decided that first thing, I was also, Dustin's been traveling a ton and I was getting a little depressed in the morning too. And I was waking up and like looking at social media and everything. So I'm like, let's tie all this together. So I decided first thing in the morning when I wake up, I make myself my coffee. I have some carbs, you know, and a little protein. And I go out the door, I put my shoes on and I walk the neighborhood with my coffee in hand. It's not anything crazy. I'm not speed walking. I'm not like, you know, anything. I literally am holding coffee, walking the
and just
neighborhood
scrolling.
and strolling. And I get about 4,000 steps in before 8
Your
a.m.
day
And you know
started.
what? Not only do I get steps in, like the anxiety that I was feeling in the morning and this like cloud of depression kind of a deal over me also lifted. It was incredible. Like I felt so, so good by making that one change. So many times I think when we feel stuck, and we feel like these victims, whether it's because of fat gain or, you know, whatever it is, if you put in the work to figure out how to make it, you know, how to do these things, it's going to take work. It's going to take tracking your food. It's going to take like hiring a coach to get you started. It's going to take, you know, maybe going for a walk in the morning, changing your morning routine, waking up 30 minutes earlier to get that done. Whatever it is, you figure it out, right? It definitely is going to take actually implementing change in order to see a difference. Because if you just keep doing the same old, nothing is going to change. And that's why I took the step 3 years ago to change. And I find that it's a continual process, like you said, of movement and activity. Okay, so people, I know a lot of people are going to say, and I get messages all the time. I just got one the other day. It was like, listen, I did a calorie deficit. They even went through faster way, right? They're like, but it didn't work for me.
Oh, you know, it's so hard because, you know, we don't know them. So we don't know, were you actually doing all the things? So first I would say that's where we have to look. We have to look at ourselves, because a lot of times it comes down to, are we really putting in the work? You know, are you doing 1 or 2 days and then going willy-nilly and then trying to start over? So look within yourself and see if there's something that you didn't do that you could change. The other thing is, people think they're going to see like these massive changes in 6 weeks. Like, you are not going to go from 160 pounds, and I'm just using that as an example, to who is somebody that looks, let's say I don't know, J-Lo, or, you know, we're not going to go from this extreme to this extreme in 5 weeks. Like, the change is going to be really subtle, and that's what you want. people sign up thinking, I see all these people making all of these claims of losing all of this weight and totally transforming in 6 weeks. And A, you don't know their journey. B, they're probably not telling you it was 24 weeks, 6 months. They could be literally showing you a client at day 1 and a client at 2 years. But if you look at somebody at 1 week and 5 weeks, there's not gonna be this like mind-blowing transformation. It's just not gonna happen. And sadly, that's when people will quit, because that's when they assume it's not working. And the biggest change, honestly, to me, like where I really see clients start to shift, is about 12 to 20 weeks, because they have started to just create these daily habits that are just a given. Their body has had time to adjust to what they're doing. I'm telling you, if you come from a low calorie diet to, or from a low carb diet to eating more carbs, more calories, it's going to take your body time to adjust. But if you don't stick it out, you're never going to know what could actually happen. Like I always tell people who look at Kristin and they're like, that's who I want to look at, or that's who I want to look like. If she would have quit at week 5, because she didn't look that much different. Like she didn't. And if she would have quit then, she would never be where she is today. She literally would probably be that same person that started on day 1.
Absolutely. And people can see that. I mean, I have a blog post, I'll link to it, I'll share it, right? That people can see. I literally document month by month my journey. And the difference between when I started in December versus January, 6 weeks later, was not that big of a difference. Like, I really didn't. I was happy because I had lost a little bit. I had never stepped on a scale during that time period, but you could tell via photos I had lost a little. I looked a little bit better, but not like nobody noticed. None of my family noticed. My own husband didn't notice. Nobody noticed, right? I mean, really, there was no massive change, right? It wasn't until like, I would say probably, like you said, about 4 months in, that suddenly Dustin's like, oh, you're looking a little different. And like, family started asking like, what are you doing? You're looking a little better. Like your face is looking a little different. Like you look different. I'd lost a couple sizes in clothes at that point, you know? Yeah. And if I had given up because I didn't see these results, because I had my own timeline on things. And that is crazy to me, is like, it's not a linear journey. Like, it's not like, oh, like calories and macros, like they may need some adjusting, right? Like what you set up for someone in the beginning, maybe that's not what their body responds to. Maybe you're gonna have to adjust it. Like you said, maybe you're gonna have to increase their activity level a little. It's a lot of playing around. People are so unique that it's like, that's where working with a coach, like, is so valuable, right? Is not only the accountability and the support to be like, keep going, you got this, like I'm here for you, but also the ability to be able to look at things from this very like data analytical standpoint and take the emotion out of it and be like, okay, you know what? So my body doesn't seem to be responding at like 1900 calories with losing fat. Maybe we need to increase decrease your calories a little, or maybe you need to up your activity. Like people just think it's like automatic given that when you give them these calories and these macros, that boom, 5 weeks later, they're going to be like this, like J-Lo, like you said, but that's not the way it works. You have got to be in it for the long haul. And if you are, like, it's incredible. I mean, seriously, like I had to take some photos the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, like who is this person? Like the muscles in my arms and like I was so proud. 3 years ago, I didn't look at photos. Like, granted, everybody's like, well, love yourself the way you are. I loved myself. That wasn't the problem. It was just that I was like, this is not the, like, I know I can be a different version of myself. And today I look at that and I'm still building upon that. So absolutely.
Yeah. And that's like, and honestly, that is literally probably the most freedom you're going to have. Like when you can just break up with these like expectations of this is what I want to look like now. This is the pant size that I want to be, and break up with that like negative connotation for what the journey is, and learn to like actually enjoy it. Like, learn to enjoy, oh my God, I'm eating so much food. Oh my gosh, I feel so strong. Oh my gosh, like I feel confident walking on the beach, like if you look at it with like the joy that it brings, you're never going to stop. Like I said, I've been training for 20 years and I've had these ups and these downs in my journey. But the one thing that has never changed is I've never stopped.
So it's like, yes, a lot of people start out for the weight loss, the fat loss, the aesthetics, but there's so much more that we don't really talk about. And I know we like show pictures and everything because so many people want to see that, but there's really a bigger picture that goes on with all of this in the long run with the journey. On the fat loss topic, I think a lot of people, I think a lot of women have done diets before, right? I mean, I grew up 80s and 90s, total diet culture, right? My mom did Weight Watchers, everything else out there. And the women in my life honestly experienced weight loss. Like they went from, they sized down, they got smaller, all this other stuff. But what seemed to happen all the time is after a few months, they would gain the weight back, or maybe like a year later, they looked amazing, and then they'd gain it back, and then they'd gain more back, right? So there's this vicious cycle of, and maybe people are afraid of doing a calorie deficit for that reason, right? Is the idea of you lose fat, but then you're going to gain it back.
That is kind of where that nutrition periodization, got it, comes in. So you want to get into a fat loss or a calorie deficit, and you want to stay there. So that's when tracking your food and all of that knowledge and learning how to do that comes into play. So tracking your food for X amount of weeks, like I said, anywhere from, it depends on goals and age and all these factors, but anywhere from like 8 weeks to probably 20 weeks is a calorie deficit, slight calorie deficit. Once you do that, your body, if you don't start increasing those calories, will adjust to those calories that you're putting in. So that's where your body is going to start maintaining. And if you simply just keep trying to go with those calorie deficit calories, those quickly become your maintenance calories. Now your metabolism has kind of downshifted because it's gotten used to those calories, and it's going to start maintaining there. And that's usually when people give up, or they hit a plateau, or they think this program isn't working for me anymore. All of those things begin to start taking effect. And that's when we need to shift what we are doing and start slowly increasing out of that calorie deficit for a little bit. It's not forever, but it depends on how much fat you have to lose and how long you need to stay out of that calorie deficit. You do that a couple cycles, but then you start getting to your maintenance calories, where then the goal is to just get stronger and start building muscle. Hang out there for some time, build your metabolism back up, get it used to eating more calories, get your muscles to grow, your sleep can improve, like all these things will improve. Then when it's time to go back into a fat loss, you're not having to lower your calories that time as low as you did the first time, because now you have built your metabolism, you have made it stronger, you've made it more flexible, you've made it to where when you take a couple hundred calories away, you're going to start seeing fat loss again. So maybe you started this journey and your calorie deficit was 1,500 calories. That next time you do it, it might be 1,650 calories. That feels more sustainable than 1,500 calories. And so it's these cycles of eating less to lose fat, upping your calories to maintain and build, and do that over time until you've reached that ultimate goal of where you feel confident, where you can maintain your weight without being so food sensitive and scared, where you can enjoy life, you can enjoy parties, and you can get back on track, and you simply maintain what you have been able to do.
And that's where most diet programs out there, like we said, most diet programs work. I'd say all of them work because they put you in a calorie deficit. That's all it is. It's not rocket science.
What
They
you do
don't.
after is what is going to be the difference between keep going and maintaining versus gaining it all back.
Precisely. Yes. And that is what the missing piece is for so many people, I think, is one, most of them get put on these extreme calorie deficits and diet programs. So of course they lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks. I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks if I only eat 800 calories a day too. I mean, most people are going to, but at the same time, and they're going to lose muscle and they're going to lose fat and they're going to lose water and all these things, which make the scale go down. But then what do you do after that? How do you sustain that, right? And then people, like you said, their metabolism is a wreck by the time they're done, because let's say
And they
they're
don't have
able,
as much muscle. And muscle
no.
is going to keep your metabolism going. And that's what you have to concentrate on. You want to lose fat, not muscle. If you can lose fat and maintain your muscle, you're going to have a lot easier time maintaining what you've lost. So like, and this is what, when you're aiming for a weight, you should not be losing less than a pound a week. If you are losing less than or more than a pound a week, you're losing muscle.
Wow.
And so, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, I lost 5 pounds in a week. And you might have, but if you go the next week, you might only lose half a pound. And that is like the sustainable, but losing 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 pounds a week is not sustainable long term, because I promise you that is all muscle. And if you lose muscle, you are not going to look fit. You are not going to look strong. You are not going to look toned. You're going to just be a lighter, flabbier version of yourself than before.
Yeah. And that's what I found. I've talked about this on social media. Last year, I got down after a calorie deficit to my lowest weight. I was like 118, 19 pounds, right? Super small. I mean, I look at pictures and you can see them online on the blog, and I'm like a teenage boy. I had nothing. And granted, I had built up a little bit of muscle because I was a newbie, even in a calorie deficit, first time lifting weights, kind of, to be expected. But I quickly realized that this like goal weight that I had in my head of 120 pounds,
Look good.
it was not the body that I expected. And I quickly realized that weight loss was not the end all be all, that there was something to be said for having muscle on your body. And this like toned look that so many women want comes from having a lot more muscle on their body, which requires eating at maintenance for a while and not just constantly dieting and dieting. So regarding building muscle, because that's such a big topic, and I hear so many people, I want to lose fat and build muscle. I'm going to do both of these things at one time. I'm just going to be like Superwoman, right? And it's going to happen in 6 weeks and all these,
like, I want to lose fat, I want to tone up, I want to build muscle, and I want to lose weight. If you've never lifted weights in your life, or you've lifted, small weights, like, gone to an aerobic class and you're doing 2 and 3 and 5 pounds or whatever, and you switch to strength training where we are focused on heavier weights. So if you're a complete newbie, it's possible. It's called newbie gains. It's very possible. And that can last anywhere from like 6 months to a year. But at about a year, you're not going to be able to do both at one time. I will use myself quickly as an example. I am by no means a newbie in the gym and strength training whatsoever. Like I said, I've been doing it for 20 years. When I turned 38, I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, dang, I don't look like I've been working out for 20, well, at that time it wasn't 20 years, but 15 years, whatever it was. I don't have that definition. I don't have that muscle. I just looked skinny and lean. And fun fact, when I
Same here.
joined Faster Way, I was 38. And when I looked at myself 2 years later, I was still focused on the wrong things. And I just looked small. I looked frail. I had skinny legs. I mean, like I had no butt. And that vision in my head, that's not what I wanted. Like I wanted to be toned and muscular without being too muscular, but like I wanted to look fit and healthy, and I didn't. Like I had that goal weight of 100. I need to be 110 pounds and build muscle. My body could not do that. And all I was doing, eating to maintain 110 pounds, was chipping away at my metabolism, was chipping away at the muscle that had took me years and years and years to build. And my body started using it to keep itself alive. And so when I turned 40, I was like, forget it. I am going to do opposite of everything that I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I just turned out the noise, and I started focusing on eating more. Like that required me to do several cycles of surplus because I did not weigh enough or have enough muscle on my body or eating enough calories to be able to build. So I had to get myself out of that rut and start being able to build. I look at pictures for myself from 40 to 45 in 2 weeks, and I have completely changed the way my body looks, and I am postmenopause. So ladies, you literally can build the body you want without hormones. I had crappy hormones, no testosterone, you name it. I was going through it from about 34 to about 40. And I'm a postmenopausal now, and I've been able to build muscle because I'm eating enough and my body is using those calories to build and sustain muscle.
So I'm hearing you say, yes, if you're new to all of this, lifting weights, like let's say you joined Faster Way, you're following the strength program, like I had never lifted weights in my life, no idea what I'm doing. I saw a little bit of gains. I mean, nothing crazy. I didn't get bulky, but I got stronger. I clearly was putting some muscle in my body and losing fat at the same time in a slight calorie deficit. Now, when you say slight calorie deficit, you're not talking about like a huge slash. It's a very slight little slashing of calories. The goal is to eat as much as possible to lose weight and lose fat, not to eat as little as possible. Like that's not the goal here. But like you said about that year mark, that's where it's like, nope. This ain't working anymore. And that's when we really started. It was actually about 9 months in. And that's when we started increasing my calories. I was so petrified, like in my mind, that I was going to gain everything back, lose all the progress. And it was a mental battle, which nobody talks about. And I started doing, and that's where having a coach and not doing this on your own is so valuable. And like, you can do that. You're good. Look at those pictures. Look at the, you're fine. Like you got this. Let's go. Over the last year, in a year time period of doing that, sitting at maintenance, I have gained around 7 pounds. I mean, I stepped on the scale recently. I'm like, oh my gosh. The crazy thing is my clothes all pretty much fit the same, except they fit better in certain areas. Like waist wise, they fit the same, but in my booty, they fit a little bit different. My legs, they like in a good way, right? Not a bad way. And like, I feel stronger. My face is clearer. I look great. I look healthy and vibrant eating at maintenance. And even though I weigh more, my body composition looks better than ever. So much to be said for not trying to be your leanest little self, right? As far as like weighing as little as possible, for putting on muscle, and to really focusing on eating enough. Like you said, you actually were eating more than your body needs to maintain, and purposely to put on muscle. Like that is such a, to most women. It's like, what?
And like, I'm telling you, from age 40 to 45, I have gained 12 pounds. But guess what? I still put clothes on that I had 5 years ago and they still fit. And like Kristin said, they just fit better in certain places. I fill out the booty better. My waist isn't any bigger. My legs feel a little tighter, but I still fit in the clothes that I was wearing at 110 pounds, at 125 pounds. I still wear the same clothes. And that is because of muscle. Your muscle does not weigh more than fat. I know people get that confused all the time. They're like, muscle weighs more than fat. No, 5 pounds of fat, 5 pounds of muscle weighs 5 pounds. However, in your body, 5 pounds of muscle takes up like this amount of weight or room, whereas 5 pounds of fat is going to take up this much. So you can change your body composition without losing a single pound when you're focusing on building muscle.
Eating at maintenance simply means you're eating the amount of calories that your body needs to maintain. There's nothing magical happening. You're not going to experience.
That does not mean you have to gain weight. People think of maintenance and like, oh, I got to gain 5 pounds. No, like you want to maintain where you lost. So what are you having to eat to maintain where you currently are?
In order to build muscle in the long term, people do have to spend some time eating at that maintenance phase.
Oh yeah, they're going, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to. Like, it doesn't matter if your goal is 5 pounds, 100 pounds. You're going to have to eat at maintenance along that journey.
And I think that's where, you know, there's so many coaches out there, macro coaches, nutritional coaches, right? And anybody can help you lose weight, whether it's in Faster Way or whatever program out there, right? Because anybody can set you up in a calorie deficit, it seems like. But it's
you can Google it yourself.
Precisely. You can use an online calculator and figure out your calorie deficit, do it for 12 weeks, boom, I guarantee you'll lose some things, right? But it's that long-term sustainability and what does this look like in the long term? We're not after just a 6-week goal. We're not after a 12-week goal. Where are you going to be 5 years down the road? And I think that's where people miss the bigger picture in all of this. I've talked about this before, but we went, my husband works for the news. We went to Paris this summer for the Olympics. I spent 3 weeks there with him, and my mission was a pastry a day. I ate a stinking pastry a day. I was bound to find the best pastries in Paris. I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I maintained the last 2.5 years didn't go out the window because I did that.
You know, I was recently in Florida. And I am very consistent in my nutrition. If people will ask me, do you still track? I do. Am I perfect all the time? Especially when I'm in maintenance and surplus? Not perfect. Fat loss, always perfect. Because I want to get in, I have a goal, and then get out. But in maintenance surplus, I'm not perfect. There are days that I'm off there. I mean, I might eat out more. So I was in Florida for 6 weeks. By no means perfect. I was in maintenance and I started pushing myself into a calorie surplus because I started watching it and I was like, forget it. I'm going into a calorie surplus. I'm going to enjoy where I am. And we're at the time of the year where I'm wearing pants, I'm wearing sweatshirts, I'm wearing leggings. If I'm going to get a little puffy, this is going to be the year this is the time that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in a way that is going to ultimately help me reach the goal that I'm really after and chasing. And so I went with it.
And it's so empowering, circling back to what we first were talking about with fat loss, to know that if you do gain some fat, right, purposely, right, because maybe you're trying to put on more muscle more quickly, right, and you're going to gain a little bit of fat along the process because you're in a little slight of a surplus, eating more calories than your body needs. It's okay because you know how to lose the fat, and then you're going to reveal this muscle underneath that you have also built when you go into a calorie deficit, which is going to be the short time period of a fat loss phase. You're going to exit out of that and go into maintenance, and that's really where you're going to spend most of the time. It's so empowering. It's like so simple and so empowering to know how to periodize your nutrition this way, and that there's not all these, like, you don't have to buy into gimmicks. You don't have to, it's like so simple no matter your age and whatnot. So Faster Way is just, always tell people Faster Way is not anything like crazy magical. It's literally just a program that takes everything as far as what you need to be doing and packages it up in a nice little like package with a bow, right? At a very affordable price. That's why I love it and recommend it, because it gives you the weekly strength trainings that are programmed with progressive overload. So you're getting stronger over time, right? It gives you the coach as part of the program. And as part of Faster Way, you get to choose what coach you work with, right? Everybody's following like the same strength training programs and everything, which is phenomenal. But then the customization comes in, and the fact that you get an individual coach that you are working with. A lot of people, one, are fearful of Faster Way because there's all these other elements that they hear about, like fasting and low carb days and all of that. The foundation's there, which is strength training and eating enough for your goals. But outside of that, you can kind of customize it to what you like or what you do need or don't need. Okay, so I love that. Now, we got a bunch of questions. A lot of them we've already hit on. Things like, when should you do a cut, for how long? We talked about all of that, but a few of them we haven't hit on. So let's just like kind of rapid fire go through these. These are from people on Instagram that submitted questions. Okay, so one, speaking of building muscle, we didn't really touch on protein, but in the last time we talked a lot about macros. Again, macros are your calories are divided into your macros. So like protein and carbs equal 4 grams or 4 calories. Correct me. Go through what real quick what they are. Yeah.
Okay. So protein is 4 calories per gram. Carbs, 4 calories per gram. And fat, 9 calories per gram. So a little just gee whiz, a lot of people eat a low carb diet and think that they're doing like this magical thing, cutting out carbs. Calories from fat are like double. So
yes,
you can quickly take yourself out of calorie deficit eating healthy fats, because calories are calories at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you are eating 50 carbs and all these healthy fats. If all of those healthy fats add up to a calorie surplus, you're going to gain weight on
that
those.
was my problem, because I consumed a ton of butter and a ton of stuff like that, olive oils and things back in, years ago. And while, like I said, I was eating healthy, but I couldn't figure out, I think I was causing myself to be in a calorie surplus because I ate so much fat, and I realized I ate very little protein and very little carbs. So tracking these macronutrients, they all add up to what your calorie goal is, right? It sounds complicated. It's very, very simple. And something like the Faster Way app does all the calculating for you. Once you give, somebody their macros, they're naturally hitting their calorie goal. It's very, very simple to use. So that said, I wanted you to break that down, because if somebody's like, wait, why are we talking about protein suddenly? So somebody asked, do you have to eat so much protein to build muscle? They hear like, hit your protein. Do you have to eat so much? I had a message the other day, like, Kristin, you eat so much protein. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, trust me, I could eat way more protein. It's just some Greek yogurt in the morning, some eggs, like some chicken at lunch, and maybe like a burger at dinner. Like, it's not that much. But when you eat very little protein, it may seem like a lot of protein to someone.
So I will say most women eat under or around 68 grams of protein a day, like the average woman. So when you take that average woman who's only eating 68 grams of protein, Kristin probably eats that in one meal, in like a snack. So, and it sounds hard or intimidating at first. And that's why, we start you at a certain protein, that is feasibly hittable. But over time, we want to try to increase that, because the more protein that you eat, the more muscle your body can maintain. So yes, protein is important. If we want to kind of just simplify it a little bit, the absolute bare minimum that you should be eating is 100 grams. But let me tell you, if you weigh 150 pounds, you want to try to shoot for, the math is anywhere from like 0.7 to 1.4 grams of carb or protein per body pound. So, you know, that could look at like 100 grams of protein to like 150. But the more protein that you can eat, the more muscle your body is going to, it's going to build, but it's also going to maintain. So protein, yes, is very, very, very important. But there's a window. And when Kristin started, she probably was only eating about, you know, I would say 110 grams of protein. And over the years, she's been able to increase it. I am like where I have my protein at 130 to 135. I have to watch because I could easily get 150 to 160 grams of protein like that without even thinking about it. And that's just from years of prioritizing it and knowing the foods that will get you the protein. So it sounds scary, but it's not in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah. We touched on this, but real quick, just to emphasize, this person asked how to lose fat with exercise limitations due to an injury. Can't use my right arm for the next few months. So if the goal is losing fat and it would be a calorie deficit, right? It comes down to nutrition. It's all about nutrition.
Not working out. You know, working out is not what makes you lose fat. It is literally your nutrition. Your nutrition is going to be the foundation of, are you maintaining, are you losing, or are you gaining?
Yep. Yep. So somebody else said, I have not been tracking. Do I have to restart with my macros? It's been a long time.
Why? Why? Like, if you haven't been doing your tracking and you already have macros, that's where you start. You have to have a solid foundation for at least 4 weeks of tracking where you already are, or, you know, what are we changing? So that's the first thing, is start
That's
tracking.
data, right? It's like data
Yeah.
to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know then, like, okay, like let's say 1,800 calories your body is responding to at 1,800 calories. But if you're not tracking, then you have no data to go on.
You don't know if, you don't know if you're eating 1,800 calories. You could be eating 1,400 calories and think that you're eating 1,800 calories. Or you could be thinking that you're eating 1,800 calories and you're really eating 2,500 calories, because it could be like one day you're eating 1,800 calories, then the next day you're eating 2,500 calories. So you need data of, if you're supposed to be eating 1,800 calories, that's where you start, and that's where that's your starting point. Do that for 4 weeks, and then let's find out what needs to be adjusted.
Okay. Yep. So a few people wanted to know, they said they're trying to build muscle, they're maybe eating in maintenance. How do they know when it's time to do a cut? And let's see, and for how long would that cut look? We kind of already talked about this.
So it just really depends on where you are in your journey. So like somebody, for me, I probably wouldn't have to do, but anywhere from like 8 to 10 weeks. Somebody like Kristin would probably be the same, 8 to 12 weeks. So it depends on where you are in your journey. However, you don't have to do a fat loss. If your goal is to build muscle and that is what you want to do that for quite a while. Like, building muscle is hard. Here's the thing, losing weight, losing fat is actually easy when you have the foundation. Whereas building muscle is so much harder, is so much more work, and is so much longer. So you don't have to do a fat loss. Like, there's no, oh, I've been building for 12 weeks, it's time to go into a fat loss. No, like, you don't. You could do that for 2 years, for 3 years. You could live in maintenance and build muscle. And so it just really depends on, A, do you have fat to lose? B, do you want to do a fat loss? Maybe you have, I don't know, a 40th birthday. You're like, I want to look rock solid on my 40th birthday. So then you've been working, building and maintenance for a while, and you want to do a small cut for that 10 weeks. Awesome. So it really is like, it's no, you have to do a fat loss. It's what do you have going on in your life? What is your goals? And that's kind of where you choose. But fat loss is not a mandatory you have to do, whereas maintenance is a mandatory to build muscle.
Like I could never do a fat loss again and be perfectly fine. I might see, we didn't touch on this, but body composition changes. I'm not losing fat, but like my body looks different.
It's constantly changing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might not, and maybe that's like the long-term goal is you don't go through, you've lost, you know, the fat that you wanted to initially, but now you're just going to focus years on maintenance, building muscle and seeing your body slightly change out. I mean, it's amazing what body composition I'm finding can do for you when eating at maintenance and lifting heavy weights and getting stronger. Yeah. So somebody said, let's see, where are we at? My body just doesn't want to burn fat. Any thoughts? We kind of touched on this already. What like people, and I get messages like this all the time. Like my body just doesn't want to give up the fat. I'm like the anomaly here in the fat loss.
You are not special. You're not special. Your body will lose fat when you have the strategies set up correctly and you can stick to it long term. What's probably happening is they're probably slashing calories, not being able to stick to it long term, and they're just doing this week after week, weekend after weekend. Whereas if you could just flatline for a minimum of 12 weeks, you're going to lose fat. You literally will lose fat. Like there is not a human on this earth that a calorie deficit does not work for. What those calories look like is probably different one person to another. For instance, I'll use Kristin. She eats 2,300 calories at maintenance. My calorie surplus is about 21. I think I'm at 2150. So I'm gaining weight at 2,150 calories, whereas Kristin is eating at 2,300 calories and she's maintaining weight. And it literally just comes down to age, hormones, muscle, height, so much goes into that. But the calories might look different from you. But if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose fat.
So someone else said, hey, I'm not working with a coach. I don't really want to work with a coach. Like, how would I set my own macros and calories? You can do it, right? But there's something to be said for the accountability, the support, and the being able to tweak based on data and getting out of your own head. I think that is so valuable for me, at least in my own experience of having a coach. And that is going to give them the long-term sustainability too. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.